sekali. Capek sedikit, tidak peduli sayang. By welcoming all participants in this webinar about the topic of the promotion of green growth and the cooperation between Indonesia and the European Union on that very topic. I welcome all participants. I also welcome the four panelists that will be giving introductions in the course of this webinar, and I look forward to a very interesting session about this very relevant topic of today. The occasion of today's webinar is that just an hour ago we launched our latest EU-Indonesia cooperation book 2020, and we did this launch together with the Honorable Minister for National Development, Bappenas, Suharto Monoarfa, to basically celebrate the strong cooperation that the EU and Indonesia have established over the years in the areas of sustainable development, greening the economy, and social development. Now, during this seminar, we will go into that a little bit, but with a particular focus on green growth. And why do we propose that theme today? Because evidently we don't need to look far, we don't need to look very deeply. The evidence of climate change is there every day. We read about its effects of storms, of extreme weather events, of heat waves, wildfires, pollution, etc., all directly or indirectly related by the risen greenhouse gas emissions. And we need to stop the trend, and to do so we have to act as global partners in this matter of a global problem affecting the global good that is the Earth. We need to invest in know-how, in human development. We need to invest in research, in technology, and we need to invest in sustainable processes of production and consumption. Now, the backdrop is very, very difficult and challenging. The COVID crisis, which affects everybody, has upended the lives of citizens all over the world, and caused a lot of grief and human losses, and as well as it has had a tremendous impact on socio-economic development, on growth, on jobs, and on a rise in poverty. For the European Union, one thing is clear. While we battle the crisis, the pandemic crisis, we must look to the medium-term post-crisis recovery. And for us, there's no doubt that recovery has to be a green one, a green recovery, in order to what is often called to build back better. Now, in Europe, we have set in motion a very large and comprehensive policy for that. It's called the European Green Deal. It is our roadmap towards making the EU's economy sustainable for the long run. There's very ambitious goals and targets, including the goal of making our economy truly circular and climate neutral and carbon neutral by the year 2050. Very difficult, something that can't be done overnight, us clear, step by step, and by paying close attention to transition that the economies of our member states have to go through, for which also the EU budget is making money available. Now, the Green Deal is for Europe, but we know, of course, that we have to have partnerships all over the globe, because if we don't have partners that also, like us, cut CO2, then we will never reach the goals formulated in the Paris Climate Agreement. And so we wish to reach out to Indonesia as one of our very important partners in Asia, given the size of your country, the size of your economy, and the size of your biodiversity and natural resources. Indonesia is a top priority partner for us. We'll be working on that in what we call as Team Europe, that is to say the EU institutions, but also the EU member states, 27 member states who will, together with the EU institutions, form this Team Europe in which we hope to cooperate for a couple of priorities with Indonesia. For instance, sustainable energy, renewable energy, and secondly also sustainable landscape management and forestry. So that is among the topics or the backdrop for this seminar, this webinar. I'm very glad to have this wonderful panel with us this afternoon, whom I will introduce as we go along for this discussion. The panelists have agreed to be very concise in their statements, about 5 minutes, to make a couple of points that can animate the discussion that we will open up after the 4 introductions. All right, now let me start by introducing the first of our speakers, and that's a speaker speaking on behalf of and for the government side, the Indonesian government. It's Dr. Arifin Rudiyanto, who is the Deputy Minister for Maritime Affairs and Natural Resources at the Ministry of National Development Planning, Bappenas. Everybody knows that name in Indonesia, Bappenas, who will be speaking to us. He's been minister in his current job since 2017, and he plays a vital role also for the SDG agenda of Indonesia, because he's the chair of the implementing committee of the National Coordination Team for SDGs and in Indonesia. Deputy Minister Rudiyanto, I give you the floor. Thank you.
Sound, please. Sound, please.
Okay. Sorry. Thank you, Mr. Vincent. Good afternoon for all of you. Firstly, I would like to extend my sincere appreciation to all of you that have made this event possible, especially to the EU team for hosting this important event. As you have defined about the development cooperation framework between the European Union and government of Indonesia, and concerning this year's plan, which will focus on green growth, I remarkably appreciate and happy to know this initiative. Along with the EU Green Deal as its roadmap toward an EU climate neutral in 2050, that already mentioned by Ambassador Piket, Indonesia has also made a commitment to reduce greenhouse gas emission by 20.3% in 2024 and 29% in 2030 through low carbon development strategies. Indonesia strives to embody its commitment by integrating sustainable development goals, SDGs principle, and low carbon development initiative into our national medium-term plan 2020-2022. This attempt has led us to have our first green medium-term development plan that includes low carbon policy scenarios. Another valuable accomplishment is that greenhouse gas emission reduction is now considered as one of macroeconomic indicators, which means the national achievement of greenhouse gas emission reduction will be closely monitored annually along with economic growth, poverty reduction, the Gini ratio, Human Development Index, and unemployment rate. However, the world currently fights against coronavirus pandemic. The pandemic has changed people's lives and created a systemic impact on our economy and social system. Recently, the government of Indonesia has made ongoing efforts to overcome the pandemic impact through fiscal and non-fiscal stimulus package to protecting public health, hindering the economy from falling into recession, and helping vulnerable livelihood and business. Due to the shifting of priority, most targets that have been set in the medium-term development plan 2020-2024 and the annual work plan 2020 possibly cannot be achieved significantly. However, we can't necessarily ignore the climate risk that also threaten our future. As such, we encourage this momentum to fight back better than before towards a sustainable and resilient future. It must be admitted that the outbreak is a global challenge that can't be handled in silo behavior. Indeed, we foster collaboration with multi-stakeholders, including development partners, to win the struggle against the pandemic towards green and sustainable recovery. The ideas for upcoming cooperation program are expected to include, first, technical assistance to assess how stimulus package can trigger green growth. Currently, we are in the process of identifying the existing stimulus on low carbon. Subsequently, we plan to develop comprehensive low carbon stimulus package and integrate it into our economic recovery strategy. This green stimulus package is expected to accelerate transition towards low carbon development. Second, sustainable investment financing in Indonesia's priority areas is also important. The development partners are expected to play a major role in leveraging low carbon investment, especially in our priority areas such as renewable energy, sustainable land restoration, green industry development, low carbon, waste management, and circular economy. Third, knowledge building on green technology in our journey towards a green future. We need practical solutions that support the development, adoption, and deployment of green technology innovation. To that end, we also expect that development partners would be able to fill the knowledge gaps that could accelerate green technology diffusion. To conclude, I would appreciate the continuous cooperation between the European Union and Government of Indonesia. I'm confident that within the next coming years, development cooperation between Indonesia and the European Union will create tangible and sustainable contribution for Indonesian people and for the global community. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Pak Arifin, the Deputy Minister for Maritime Affairs and Natural Resources at Bappenas, for those words. I think very clear message there about both the government's policy goals in the post-COVID and pre-SDG framework, and linking that very, very closely to your realization on the climate agenda, the Paris Agreement. So we will come back to that discussion, those points in the framework of the discussion. I would now like to invite the second speaker to take the floor, and he is the ambassador of the Federal Republic of Germany to Indonesia, Ambassador Peter Schoof. He has been in Indonesia for a little bit more than a year now, a good year and a half, and he previously served in a variety of postings in different parts of the world, accredited to the UN in Geneva, but also in Damascus, and his previous position was Germany's ambassador to Greece. And so I would like to invite Ambassador Schoof, just to note that right now, in this half year, Germany is the rotating presidency of the European Union in Europe. So I look forward also to hearing some perceptions from the ambassador on how the German presidency sees the topic of green growth and cooperation with Indonesia in particular. Ambassador Schoof.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thank you very much for inviting me to this panel discussion. I would like to, first of all, greet the Deputy Minister, Arifin, the co-panelists, Ibu Budiani and Wichard von Harrach, but all of the participants, of course, who are listening or viewing in this discussion. Indonesia is the world's fourth largest, fourth most populated country. It has seen vibrant economic growth since the 1997-98 Asian financial crisis. It has been impressive, with millions of people who have been lifted out of poverty. It has also, in the recent years, made remarkable progress that we welcome very much towards sustainable development and green growth. It has managed to mainstream the SDGs into its medium-term development plan. It has set itself ambitious targets with respect to renewable energies. And last but not least, Indonesia has also succeeded in curtailing deforestation rates from 1.9 million hectares in 1990 to just 500,000 million hectares during these last years. This is very encouraging to see. Economic success, however, can also at a high environmental cost. Rapid land use change and reliance on fossil energy make Indonesia still one big greenhouse gas emitter. And deforestation and pollution are putting pressure on its mega diverse ecosystems. So there's still much to do, and flattening the emissions curve will only be possible if we take bold and courageous climate action now, and especially together. Ambassador Piket mentioned that Germany at the moment holds the 6-month rotating presidency in the Council of the European Union. That is why there's one point that I would like to make very clear and to underline, that we want to work with you in Indonesia really in a Team Europe spirit. We want to use the resources of the Commission and of the member states in a way which complements each other in an optimal way. We have undertaken a démarche with the government recently, just on the day actually when the president launched his annual state address, and it coincided very well because he presented COVID as bad as it is, as also a leap momentum for social and economic transformation, and he prioritized very much environmental friendly society, environmental friendly policies, sorry. What I would like to say, following from these remarks of the President, is that the investment needed now to revive our economies should be designed as a once-in-a-generation opportunities. We can use the economic rebound from COVID-19 to accelerate the transition to a safer and more resilient future. Globally and also in Indonesia, we have the potential to ensure substantial investments and redesigning our power sectors, our cities, our buildings, our transportation, and our food systems on a transformational path. Coming to Germany now, our development cooperation has traditionally been supporting green growth since a long time. And we are very proud and happy with a trustful and good relationship with Bappenas, but with many other ministries and stakeholders in Indonesia. We see with great satisfaction that the development of forest management units at the moment and the acceleration of social forestry schemes as a core strategic options to achieve emission reductions from the land-based sector and for green growth, just as an example. Coming to the private sector now, because I think we all agree that, and I think Wichard von Harrach will say a couple of words on this later. Coming to the private sector, I think we have also to turn a page, because if we are really serious about this green growth agenda, we will need to really capitalize on the vectors that provide innovation in our economies. And these are normally to be found in the corporate sector, often supported by governments, but especially in the corporate sector. And we have to look at the private sector, the corporate sector, as a partner in a much different way than in the past, because many of the things we want to achieve, especially in this timeline, can only be done if we include the private sector. But the private sector has also another role to play. It can also be included when we try to design sustainable, for example, sustainable supply chains. We have a very good example in Germany, for example, with the German tire producer Continental, which I'm sure many of you know. You know, there's Pirelli, there's Goodyear, but there's also Continental, German, you know, if I may say so. And they have interesting project together with our government, but also with the Indonesian government, which is called Rubber from the Heart of Borneo, which aims at sustainably producing rubber, which aims at tracing it in the digital way and delivering it in an eco-friendly way to Germany. And this pilot shows that there is a lot of scope for partnerships of this kind that also demonstrate the resolve of the private sector to really be helpful in that regard. Coming now to the government, I will not be long. I think our partners in Indonesia know that we have provided multi-level support of more than 2 billion euros in investment lending, policy-based lending, and technical assistance in the electricity sector in Indonesia. We are concentrating, as you know, on hydropower, geothermal plants, solar photovoltaic systems, and the implementation of a development strategy for renewable energy. We look at this sector particularly with particular interest because we know that the President has launched the sort of call on all the line ministries to work on the promotion of renewable energy energies in Indonesia. We are very interesting to see the results of the new regulation of the tariffs. That could be a turning point, because in the past we had a taxing of the renewables and the subsidizing of the fossil fuels rather than it should be. It should be the other way around. We should try to subsidize renewables and tax fossil fuels if we want to achieve this turnaround. So we are very interested to also continue our cooperation at the policy level with Indonesia. We also, of course, look very closely at the omnibus law, and we welcome, and I want to make this very explicit, the streamlining of investment opportunities, which we think can be a big boost to economic activity here in Indonesia. We hope that it will be possible to implement all these new provisions in an environmentally friendly way and keeping environmental standards. Just without wanting to be too long, let me just conclude by saying that we stand together with the EU, Germany with the EU, but at the moment, of course, as presidency in the particular responsibility, we stand ready to work with Indonesia and its citizens, particularly also its civil society, to put in place and implement a clear and robust low carbon policies and further strengthen our partnership on green growth strategies. We have a big challenge in Europe. We are resolved to address it now in a very robust way with ambitious targets, but also ambitious implementation, which will be politically not easy. But of course, we are aware that Europe is only a tiny part of the world. And if we want to be serious and achieve our goals, we have to reach out. And this is why looking at Indonesia as a development partner of the European Union, but also of Germany as a G20 country with a global responsibility, we believe in Indonesia that we are able to form an ideal partnership to achieve these goals, learn from each other, support each other where we can, include the private sector in an intelligent way, and just also defend this agenda in international fora. Vincent, I think I'll leave it there, and I'm very much looking forward to the discussion. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Peter, the ambassador of Germany in Jakarta, for your contribution from, I think, with a couple of very good points on the Germany's policy within the EU and the EU's policy on green on the green economy, on sustainability, and also I think a very clear statement on the extremely strong attachment that the European Union has with Indonesia as a partner in this endeavor, coming from a different perspective, but the objective, the fundamental goals are, I think, totally identical. We move away from government, and I'll be introducing our third speaker, and she is Indah Budiani, and she is the Executive Director of the Indonesia Business Council for Sustainable Development, IBCSD. She's got 40 years of experience working with NGOs, with government and the private sector on environmental and climate change issues. And she's now focused on working to promote sustainable business that covers environmental, economic and social aspects. She's an alumnus of Pajajaran University for her bachelor's degree. She has a master's degree from the Technical University of Munich in Germany, and she's currently pursuing a PhD at the University of Indonesia in the social welfare study. She has been with IBCSD since 2013 as a relationship manager, and now as executive director. And the IBCSD currently has 40 member companies coming from 17 different sectors. So I'm very keen, I'm sure of us, everybody is so, to hear from Ibu Indah from her perspective of a non-governmental, business-orientated perspective.
Thank you very much, Mr. Ambassador. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon, everyone. Yang terhormat Bapak Arifin Rudiyanto, Mr. Peter Schoof, and Mr. Wichard von Harrach. It's an honor for me to be part of this important discussion. Here I represent civil society organization. Especially, I would like to explain about the project between Indonesia, civil society, and European Union. But before I explain the project, next please. Before I explain about the project, let me emphasize that there is a close connectivity between environment or climate change to the social dimension. So just a brief explanation: when people try to improve their well-being, people tend to exploit more, including the natural resources. So this may create environmental destruction or climate change. So that's why when we hear talking about turning climate change and environmental challenges into opportunity, I think we should also pay attention to the social dimension. So I think that's what people call shifting paradigm from production-centered development to the people-centered development. Means that the development that focused on exploitation and unsustainable practices to the development that emphasizing on participation, sustainability, and conservation. And in this area, the Response project that I would like to explain later is playing its role. And this is also why IBCSD, as a business association that promotes sustainable development through private sector, is willing to be part of this project. Next, please. So now it's about the Response. Response stands for Responsible and Sustainable Indonesia Palm Oil. The target group is the village community in and around palm oil plantation. So you can see on the slide, it consists of laborers, youth, women, smallholders, farmers, village leaders, and village facilitators. And the implementing institution on this project is the CSO. There is a Penabulu Foundation, there is PKPA, Pusat Kajian and Perlindungan Anak, and led by Eco Cooperation. And IBCSD provides support on this project through giving a thought. We have so many discussions with Eco Cooperation long before the project is implemented. I think we have like 6 years of collaboration with Eco Cooperation on the field of business and human rights. So the objective of this project is to realizing decent rural living through the formulation of community and corporate social responsibility, and also the better use of government village fund, and also to promote the UN guiding principle on business and human rights for the smallholders or farmers. Next, please. So now the role of the CSO in the green agenda, I don't want to read one by one because I have limited of time, but here is some role of the civil society organization that I take from scholars named Gabriela in 2002. So I also provide example from the Response project and also the IBCSD, because this is the similar role of IBCSD to promote sustainability. We have collected our member best practices on their contribution to SDGs that you can look on our website. We also conducted study and researchers together with, for example, for food system transformation, we work together with FAO. For green jobs, we work together with ILO. And we also conducted a pilot project with our members company. So this is our role in performing operational function. We also provide tools to help our member companies or the private sector to measure or to assess their compliance to the sustainability pillars. And we also have so many business dialogue, either with the government or within the business community itself. So last slide is how the civil society organization fit into the government strategy. So actually it is written on the previous slide. It can be done through documenting the process. It identifies the success story and collect the lesson learned from the work of the CSO. But here I would like to take some example from the Response project. Although the project has not yet completed, but this is the key takeaway that we can learn. First, the power should place equally in transparent communication on business case, means that there is no power that higher than the other in the partnership. And the communication should be built on the positive manners. And second, the donors and government should acknowledge the role of civil society, otherwise they cannot be heard by the government. And collaborative projects that involve multi-stakeholders can effectively support the country to realize its long-term vision of net zero emission and climate resilience. So I think I should stop here. I open for any discussion in the next session. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much indeed, Ibu Indah, for your contribution, and I think a couple of very good notions there on the various interconnections between businesses, civil society, human resources development, and the public-private partnerships in that connection. So we will come back to that topic I've seen a few questions in the chat box that relate particularly to that dimension, and so I'm keen to explore that further. I remind or recall to all participants that there is still a poll ongoing in parallel to this session, an opinion poll, and do push the button. There's no right or wrong answers, but make your voice heard in this connection. The last speaker in this row is a speaker from the side of European business. It's Wichard von Harrach. He is an economist, and he has been working for 25 years in various businesses and business development and management functions, predominantly in the energy sector. And he joined the company for which he works, Siemens, a global German company working globally, in 2003, working in Bangladesh, and in various other locations. And he has been in Indonesia since 2014, and where he currently is the president director of a power plant, 1,220 megawatt power plant called PT Java Power. And besides that job, he's also the chairman of the supervisory board of the Independent Power Association, and he is the vice chairman of the executive board of EuroCham Indonesia. Wichard, I give you the floor.
Thank you very much, dear Ambassador Schoof, Deputy Minister. Thank you for giving the private sector the floor. You have talked a lot about the private sector, and now we have, last but not least, a bit of voice. We are talking about green recovery in Indonesia. I think we should separate, as our previous speakers have done, that sustainability has been around for quite some while, and now we see a lot of opportunities in the present situation. I want to switch the slide. Just a word about EuroCham. We are the advocacy platform for all European businesses with 1,200 members, indirectly or direct members, and we have conducted a tsunami of working group meetings. You can read this in the fantastic publication that was launched today, where they apparently counted all of our working group meetings. And we have also noted there 272 policy meetings and 138 recommendations. So we do think we make quite an impact on in the area of advocacy. European business and our members have always strived for sustainable business operation. And we acknowledge the climate change, and we have adjusted our strategies, and we have now, with the Green Deal kind of platform, Trägerrakete, we would say in German, which encapsulates all the elements which we have covered before. But we have done this before. I would like to point out that last year, we have started with a sustainable development goal report of our members, where I will quote some of the best practices or ideas which can now be relevant for our discussion. How can we recover from the present situation in a sustainable green way? The second thing is, already in 2018, we did, at the time it was not a Green Deal, the magic word was circular economy. In my school, it's called reduce, reduce, recycle. So it's always the same thing. And that's what the business ideas come from that I want to share. Basically, technology is there. So now in recovery means we are restructuring our processes and we are looking at alternative ways. And there's 5 possibilities. Resource efficiency, this is very simple. Take sunlight, take modules that are widely available, and you produce your own electricity and reduce your PLN bill. Secondly, use palm oil waste, biomass, produce gas, burn that gas, and you have a complete cycle. The other thing is, with the present situation, we have a pressure on the kettle, and pressure is usually generating creativity, and this is the eco-innovation. New products are coming from the opportunities that are being presented with the discussion about depleting resources, etc. The other thing is where our members are really strong is combine Industry 4.0, artificial intelligence, and combine it with growing palm oil, resource tracking, optimization of use of herbicides, pesticides, etc. Yields higher results for the farmer. On the other hand, is better for the environment. In production, we see that, for example, H&M is doing hopefully also other colors than this yellow, but they are doing hoodies from ocean plastic. I have personally experience with the ocean plastic sneakers from Adidas, and I can highly recommend also, of course, Nike and Puma as our members who produce the same products. And last but not least, let's talk about reduce. Reducing the waste is first priority, repackaging, and finally also using the waste. The waste management is still a huge opportunity for new business, for optimization of business supply chains, and as such also for Indonesia, a huge field of development. Just why are we doing sustainable green business? Because we understand, we know, and we have adjusted our strategy. Most of our members have the same deal as the EU. We aim to be carbon neutral in the near future, even before 2050, some of our members, and we have adjusted our strategies to the same way. And we know that innovation comes from these kind of situations, which we have now, and we believe that this innovation opens new markets and opportunities. And as the example of solar power shows, the AI deployment, you can save a lot of money in combining smartly, connecting the dots, as my friends from Danone call it. And we all do this, the business does it if it makes economic sense. This is where we are currently seeing that in the abundance of the funds, if I may say so, the money is quite cheap. We can calculate a little bit better any kind of innovation, and that should help us everywhere, even also in Indonesia. In Indonesia, we have a lot of possibilities to together address the challenges that are very well known, and to combine this to create new jobs, green jobs, to help the environment, help the people, and of course, create business opportunities for our members. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Wichard, with this very hands-on presentation of what the Chamber EuroCham is doing, and with its 1,200 companies that employ Deputy Minister. Together they employ about 1.1 million Indonesian people throughout the country, and thereby giving livelihood to their families. So there's a tremendous impact, positive impact of European investors here in your country. I liked one point that we had mentioned, and that's the incentive for business, and basically saying business will do its thing on greening the economy because it wants to anyhow. It's part of the mission statement of the very large majority of companies, but it will do it only, it can do it only if there is a private sector business incentive and profit incentive. So we'll come back to that, that point. as well. Now, I'm just now going to ask our producer where we stand with the opinion poll. If that's, yeah, there we are. I didn't vote, so I'm totally neutral on the outcome of this. What area do you think is the most important one for green growth? And then circular economy, sustainable energy scoring very high, 31%. And second ranking is sustainable agriculture and transport and infrastructure. Yeah, so clearly sustainable energy is, in the view of people, the pollers, the largest, the priority sector. And maybe I ask the question to Deputy Minister Arifin, and other colleagues from the panel can come in as well on that. Sustainable energy, of course, means cutting carbon and making reducing the carbon footprint of the energy sector in power, in the power production, for instance, but also on the consumer side, in the cars, and is indeed for you, for the government, energy the key driver, the key platform for pushing the greening of your economy.
Yes, I think from government Indonesia point of view, the sustainable energy is a high priority, in which we have set up our target to increase the utilization of renewable energy from currently 11% from the total energy to become around 22-23% at the end of this midterm. But this needs very, very hard efforts. To do this, we use three frameworks: regulatory framework, institutional framework, and financial framework. Regulatory framework, for example, currently we are discussing the price for renewable energy, because currently the price is only 6.6 cent per kilowatt hour. It is very cheap. It's below the cost of production. So we need to have a more economical price for the renewable energy. Second is institutional framework. We need also to have a special body in Indonesia that deal with the development of renewable energy. As a regulator is the Ministry of Energy and Mineral, and then we need also executor for this regulation. And the third is financial framework. We develop in this case a blended finance, like public-private partnership. So we encourage private sector to build or to involve in renewable energy business by giving some incentive, and also disincentive for the utilization of fossil fuel. This is our policy. So we agreed that sustainable energy is the main priority, because it gives impact to other sectors as well.
Thank you. Would any of the other panelists would like to come in on this one? Maybe I invite Indah also to talk about, from the perspective of your IBCSD platform for sustainable business, the Sustainable Business Council, what place energy, renewable energy has for you, and maybe also comment on the sector agriculture, which came number 2 in our poll as the important sector for greening the economy.
Thank you, Mr. Ambassador. I would like to try to answer. Some of IBCSD members has tried to shift their power to renewable energy. I think at global level, some of them even has targeted 100% from renewable energy. So in Indonesia, we have to resolve some challenges. So that's why we work closely with Pak Arifin Rudiyanto as well, with Bappenas. We also have a working group on green lifestyle, which the renewable energy is part of the discussion. So we'll have this renewable energy discussion on 24th of September, so this month. And we also try to propose a program together with WBCSD network, with Malaysia, with Thailand, on renewable energy for mobility. So let's see, will we succeed or not? And we also work together with KLHK, Ministry of Environment and Forestry, on resource efficient and cleaner production. So we need to identify in which operation the climate emission is the most. So, and in this spot, we have to change the power to renewable energy. So there are a lot of things that we work on. We also have the platform, Arifin Rudiyanto, P4G, that we also try to work on the green growth and how we decarbonize some sectors. So this is our work. Still a long way to go, but it's still working, it's progressing. Thank you.
Thanks very much. Peter Schoof, Ambassador of Germany.
I would also like to come to the issue of renewable energies and just ask a question or make an observation. We have noted the interest that the government has in developing the whole sector of e-mobility, on which there is a lot of momentum. I think a lot significant funds are going to be devoted to that. And my question is, Minister, do you see a way how you could actually combine the launch of e-mobility in the country with a triggering of the renewable energy sector by making it clear that as you phase into the e-mobility production, you will actually do this with renewable energy, and thereby, of course, boosting also the market size of the renewables in Indonesia. I mean, what is this idea ever come up, or what would be the reaction to such an idea? Thank you.
Minister?
Yes, actually, we have a program, like I have said, to increase the contribution of renewable energy in all sectors, including in the mobility and so on. For example, currently we are also preparing the regulation for electric cars, and then also to increase the utilization of LNG and so on. This is effort. Another effort is directly and indirectly. Indirectly, for example, in cooperation with Indonesian Financial Authority, this authority released the regulation that all the companies that listed in our stock exchange should produce sustainability report. And means that once they use renewable energy and so on, they will have good credit. And also with our standardization agency, we will give ISO for company that practicing the green activities, especially using renewable energy. And also using the SDG framework, we promote better for business, better for the world. For example, one car industry in Indonesia will change the source of energy production from fossil fuel to renewable energy. And this decrease the cost only to 70% of the total cost. Means that these activities better for the business, but also better for the world. So we do everything through the campaign, through the regulation, and also through incentive. So we do everything to increase our budget, to achieve our budget.
Thank you. Wichard, speaking from the side of European business, and your track record here in Indonesia, and the EuroCham has done a lot of research on the business climate, also in energy. But what would you say from the side of European investors here, European entrepreneurs? What do you need more in order to allow businesses to invest successfully? What do you need more in terms of incentives? Are there sufficient opportunities for public-private partnership? Is that the model, or are companies more looking for independent, self-standing investment in the area of energy? But I would include other sectors as well.
Yeah, thank you. For renewable energy, we have a long list of recommendations, and the most simple one is that we need to allow for small projects below 10 megawatt a majority shareholding for foreign investors. That's very easy. I hope it will be included in the new negative investment list because that is one of the fundamental roadblocks on the way. The second thing is what we need is the reduction of regulation in terms of local content, standardization, and our recommendation is basically just let us use what has worked in around the world and to leapfrog in renewable energy. It is extremely simple. If we ask for local content first, this will not be leapfrogged. As we have, for example, 50 giga production capacity worldwide on solar panels, it would be, it is a little bit late to ask for domestically produced solar modules. In other areas, I think our renewable energy friends would say that we don't need any subsidy for renewable energy. We just need a level playing field. As such, renewable energy is extremely competitive, and we need to create a fair playing ground for renewable energies. That is in remote islands, comparing the renewable option with the existing one. There is a lot of low-hanging fruits, actually. The other thing that I would highly point out, which is a sustainable development, would be to go into the building code. I still see that many buildings in Jakarta, higher skyscrapers, are still being produced with the single glazed windows. We can nowadays produce almost zero energy transmission rate for the glazing. That would reduce the enormous power consumption of the office buildings. And as such, there are so many things that are easy to be implemented. And that would be to harvest those is our first recommendation. Thank you.
Great, thanks for that, and thanks for that mention of the construction sector. In fact, one of the questions that we got via the chat box was precisely about better rules for the construction sectors, raising the standards so that in the future buildings are constructed in an energy efficient, if not energy neutral manner. I come to a question more about our people. There's a couple of questions in the chat box that relate to people, to human resources, to young people as well. And one question related to the need for reskilling, retraining employees in what was called in the question polluting industries, and reskilling them for work in green firms. The other question related to the role of young people in all of this. And I would be grateful for one or two reflections from Ambassador Schoof on that, and from Ibu Indah, the role you see for Ambassador Schoof, what role did the young people play there, and do they play a role still? Ibu Indah, and also Dr. Arifin, Deputy Minister, please. Maybe Ambassador Schoof, you start.
Well, I think the implementation of green growth and the really sustainable circular economy is a multidimensional task that requires not only technical ministries, but it requires a big boost also in the education. And of course, you know, it is interesting. I mean, worldwide we see that the momentum in favor of green growth is really coming more from the younger generation than from, let's say, our generation. If I say our, I mean you, Vincent, and me. I mean, the minister, of course, is so young, and of course, EU Budiani is even younger, and Mr. Van Harrach is somewhere in between. But seriously, I think that actually we see in the world that this whole momentum is carried by our young people, and this is also a message for us, because I mean, it is important that we don't look at these movements that we see in Europe, but in many other continents also, just as something of some misdirected young people who take to the streets. But it is a real concern, because, you know, when they reach my age, I'm in my early 60s, what will the world look like if we don't assume our responsibility today? And therefore, I think it is important to see that actually we have, I see in the young generation an important partner in the civil society. I think I'm really full of admiration for the very active civil society here in Indonesia, which is amazing and really a good and strong advocate for this change we want to see. And I think it requires a multidimensional approach where we have to take action at the very concrete level as technocrats in finding solutions, but we also have to work on the awareness and on education of our public. And there, I think we can actually count on the young generation, maybe more than our generation, and that's what we should do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, so I think if we check the statistic from the BPS, Indonesian statistic data, Indonesia has a demographic bonus, means that we will have young people more than before. So it really depends, the future really depends on their behavior, on their mindset. If they're aware of their environment, aware of their habit that can influence their future of their nation, so it will be good. But if not, then it will be chaos. So IBCSD has a program that I mentioned earlier, the Green Lifestyle Program. It actually tried to how to say, improve the quantity of sustainable products. But we realize and aware that we cannot push the business sector to produce more sustainable product if there is no buyer. So that's why we now working together with the youth, try to educate them what is sustainable products and how important it is for our future and things like that. So I think next month we will have a webinar on SDG that we are targeting youth. In the beginning, we think that it's not really IBCSD course, you know, because we are a business association, but we think it is important in the long term, because we need to educate them. Because when we have a webinar, I think Pak Arifin Rudiyanto, Pak Deputy Minister, was there also. There are many youth ask me about the title because it's about SDG something blah blah blah, and they don't understand what is that. So now we want to make it very simple, more popular, so you can understand easier about the topic. But this is a very homework for Indonesia, and I think IBCSD also will play a role on this field.
Great. So thanks very much for that. And Minister, what do you, from the government point of view, see as the task in human resources development for the green growth, the task for raising awareness? What is that a priority for you or not?
Thank you. In involving all the stakeholders, we are using SDGs as a framework, because SDGs is economic pillars, environmental pillars, and also social pillars. And within environmental also include renewable energy. In dealing with this, we have three approaches. First is we need a political will. Second, we need a legal basis. And third, a good strategy. In terms of political will, we need support from all stakeholders, from the parliament, political parties, and especially from the youth. So we make SDGs, including the renewable energy, as a movement. By movement means everybody knows what is SDGs, how to implement SDGs, and the benefit of implementing SDGs, like Indah already said. So we use this as a way to campaign. For example, there is one semester curriculum about SDGs in the University of Wichard. So all the University of Wichard students knows about SDGs, what is their role, and how they implement. Because the youth is the actors and also the beneficiaries of the current program. This is our way to include the youth for the campaign, but also in practice. For example, in agricultural sector, the average of the farmers, over age of the farmers, around 50 years. The youth generation is not interested to work in agriculture. So we have a program how to attract the young generation to enter the agricultural sector. Or we promote a green agriculture using digital technology and also digital marketing and so on. So, and green technology as well. So we attract them to deal to entering the agriculture. This in practice. Another example is also in like Mr. Wichard said, how to provide renewable energy in remote area. And we have many, we call off-grid. Off-grid means area that not served by our PLN company, like state electric company. This is the area in which renewable energy has a potential market. In this case, the young generation in this area is very keen to involve in these activities. And sometimes they also establish a small company using renewable energy. So the youth is very important role because they knows what the benefit and also knows how to implement the program.
Thank you. I would wholeheartedly agree with that, and particularly given the very large young population in Indonesia, of course, this is a strategic opportunity for your country, and it requires efforts in terms of the development of the human resources and the skills. All right. Thank you so far. It's 4:45 in Jakarta, and I'm just looking at the clock. I think we will have to conclude in a little while. But before that, of course, first of all, I would like to invite each of the speakers, each of the four speakers, to answer make a last statement about EU-Indonesia cooperation. And from the side of Indonesia, with the minister and with Ibu Indah for IBCSD, the question is, what would you like to have most from the European Union? What can the EU, in whatever form, government or business or both, best contribute to your green growth agenda. And for the two European speakers, Ambassador Schoof and Wichard for the EuroCham, what, from your perspective, from your experience in Indonesia, you think the EU's experience can be most usefully offered to Indonesia? So what is the best learning experience or know-how or expertise or resource that the EU can bring on? Reflect a moment about that, because I wanted to say still that we have had, I see right now, even in the question and answer box, 27 unread questions, and I think I've read an equal number of them, and I'm really sorry that we can't respond to all of them. We will look at them carefully and do something with it, with your expressions of interest and some very specific questions. So we'll come back to that. At the very end of this webinar, we will give the results of the second poll that is running in parallel, and so do take, to all participants, do take the opportunity to push the button. It's not right or wrong answers, but it's just a gathering, taking the temperature from you. All right, now I start by maybe giving our, let's alternate the Indonesia, Europe, government and business, and let me first invite Ibu Indah to speak on behalf of the Indonesian business.
Thank you, Mr. Ambassador. So because I represent a business association, I would like to answer based on my background. So what we need is the business case, because we need to convince the private sector to shift their business model from the business as usual to sustainable business. And shifting that kind of business model can be a huge investment. So if they can see the benefit in the long run, so this can be easier for us to convince them to make these changes towards sustainable business. And another thing, perhaps the best practices, I think that can be a good thing that we can share to the private sector in Indonesia, because here we need some example. We need to see the concrete result from the investment, and also perhaps the technology. I think we also have to learn, especially from Germany, because I studied there. I know the technology in Germany is very advanced. So this is also the thing that I think will be helpful to do some changes, especially in business sector. Thank you.
Thank you. Great, very clear. Wichard, from the European business, what can the European business offer? Can you respond to what Indah has just expressed as an interest?
Yeah, well, now we see the poll. Okay, I think that would actually be, without hearing Ibu Indah's request, that is what I noted down as my recommendation or my wish, that I know that we have in Europe now 30 years of renewable energy experience. Germany, with the taxpayers' money, drove down the price per kilowatt hour from 50 cents to now 6 cents in Germany for solar power. So we really know how to do renewable energy. We can also share what we shouldn't do. That is, in Germany especially, we did some policy mistakes, which are very deadly at the moment. But in overall, all the 27 and plus our 3-4 friends around, we can offer a compact knowledge base. And that is my request to the government, that why don't we open the gates to these experts because my German friends, they would love to come here and share, paid or unpaid. So we should let them come here and assist the programs. So that is a request I mean, basically to Indonesia. We have the knowledge, but we also need to get the opportunity to share it. And the EU is a perfect platform to, and they have it, by the way, so many databases and supplier database, knowledge database projects in renewable. Is like you can go basically plaster the way to Germany with all the studies that we have done on renewables. So it is also, somebody has to read it. So asking is one thing, but we also have to consume these things. And that's why my recommendation is get the experts here and let them help us to get our things done, because there's so many low-hanging fruits, as I said. And we, all my engineering friends are very happy to share this. Thank you.
Thanks, Wichard. Also a very clear statement from the side of the business, the European business. To move to the government, I start by inviting the German ambassador, Peter Schoof, to say what, from his experience, his knowledge of this country and your experience and knowledge of the EU, and including Germany, what do you think the EU can offer Indonesia?
Okay, thank you. First of all, I subscribe to everything Wichard and Harrach just said, but I think there is one overriding theme here. The green growth, which requires an energy really turnaround, needs innovation. And to bring the innovation to Indonesia needs a good investment climate. What Europe can offer what the EU can offer to Indonesia in this field is that we have a wealth of experience, as Wichard van Harrach said. We have the technologies. We have also the policy experience now after these last, let's say, 30 years. We know about the mistakes. And I think it is one thing that I would like to add particularly is that, you know, Indonesia is a country, is an archipelago with thousands of islands. So, I mean, you have, of course, Java or Sumatra or Borneo, which might resemble a sort of landmass country in Europe, where you have solutions where you build a grid and so on, and you can sort of copy what has been done in our countries. But I think we also have a lot of technology and experience for the many micro solutions that you need in a country like Indonesia, with small islands which are not possible, where it is very difficult to put them on a mega grid, you know, supplying energy or electricity everywhere, but where you have to develop local solutions. And there's a lot of dynamic in this local solution technology that we can use. So that is just one example where I think we could be very helpful. But again, I think what we have to offer is, I think there is this lot of know-how and innovation expertise in the EU that many of us, especially the corporate sector, is really more than happy to share and to also seek business opportunities. So that's what I would encourage our Indonesian partners to go after us. Thank you.
Great, thanks very much. And finally, Honorable Minister, speaking from the Indonesian government side, what can, according to you, the EU best offer to Indonesia?
First is technical assistance. For example, how to set up the roadmap towards the mixed energy using 32 years Germany experience and so on. The objective is to avoid policy mistake. So we need from European experience what kind of regulation needed, what kind of regulation need to be removed. And then what the role of government, what the role of private sector, what the role of academician, and so on. And third one is how to finance this roadmap. What is the funding from government needed, and which part should be funded by the private sector. This the roadmap that we need to be established, and we need also technical assistance from EU. Second is sustainable investment financing, whether in terms of grant or loan with low interest, is needed for our priority areas, as including renewable energy, also green industry, to carbon waste management, and so on. So we need also first technical assistance, and then green and low finance investment. And third is transfer of technology. We need to have a knowledge building on green technology. And transfer technology is very important. We can use this through exchange of researchers, through Minister of Research and Technology, also between university or between the private sector. But we can use this by plan. So we can plan this exchange or transfer of technology, especially for renewable energy, like Mr. Harrach already mentioned. So 3 things: technical assistance, green investment, and transfer of technology. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Minister, for these very practical ideas. Listening to you, and that is something. Those are things that the EU definitely can contribute, and it's essentially a matter now of Indonesia and EU government ministries and others, private sector and the civil society, sitting together to discuss precisely that, and to come to a little bit of a roadmap, and we are keen to do that. We wish to do that, certainly for the planning of our further cooperation program at EU level for Indonesia. Member states will want to do exactly the same. The development banks, KfW, AFD, European Investment Bank, will want to do the same. So I think we have a strong group of interested stakeholders on the EU side, and we look forward to working with you and with the other ministries on that point, on those points, and with the goal of greening the economy, and that's what it is about. So I'm going to conclude there, but not before showing. Let's take another look at the poll, the second polling. Has it changed anything? Can the producer display the poll, please? Coming? No? There we are. It has a difficulty. Anyway, what I saw when I glanced at it a bit earlier is that the renewable energy sector is very much the top mention among the polling, with agriculture coming next, and also this circular economy as a concept. That is a new element that has come into it. So I think on the whole, there we are. Circular economy, now a good second ranking, and then followed by agriculture and transport. So I think the views have changed a little bit after this, as a result of this seminar. That's interesting to see. So I thank everybody, all participants, for their participation. the panelists in the first place for their contributions. I think very, very skillful contributions and useful and interesting. All participants coming from all over the place, really. I've seen Manado in North Sulawesi. I've seen South Sulawesi, Kendari. I've seen Malang, Surabaya, Sumatra, Banten, Cilegon in Banten province. So I think we were maybe not entirely nationwide, but we got a pretty long distance also from outside Indonesia, from Brunei, so, and a few participants from Europe. So to everybody, thank you very much for joining to this seminar on the occasion of the launch of the EU-Indonesia cooperation book. Team Europe, we are EU and member states, but I also think we are also a team EU-Indonesia, and that is the spirit we will be working in over the coming year. Thank you very much, Mr. Minister. Greetings to your colleagues at the Ministry, and thank you to all panelists. See you soon.
Thank you.